Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex, and that episode number 160. And you know, there's nothing worse than a peasant with indigestion. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
Very good.
Very good. A little tired. A little sore.
Very tired. Very sore.
Who are we kidding?
Kind of tired.
We're
Not
a
sore.
wreck. we're an absolute hot mess tonight.
Speak for yourself.
I do.
Why you got so tired? Sunday.
Well, there was a
You kept me up late last night.
spirited game of Doctor Who Monopoly last night is what happened.
I don't know if it was spirited, but it happened.
It got spirited at
There was
times.
much hand-wringing and teeth-gnashing,
Well, at the end.
as is wont to happen with Monopoly.
That's true. We should know better.
And despite the Uno prophecy, we played anyway.
So I had the guys over from Doctor Who Monopoly, which we'll review later.
You believe that?
We're going to review it.
What other podcast is going to give you an official review of Doctor Who Monopoly? Just us, baby. Just us.
I won.
We didn't have to cover
Spoilers.
that.
That's what I did this week. I won at Monopoly. So.
Again. I got to meet the president again.
I didn't do much else. Got a new printer today.
You did.
Yeah.
Is it an AirPrint?
It is a wireless printer.
Isn't that what that's called?
He's not a Mac.
I'm not a Mac, so it's not an AirPrint.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's an official registered
It's a-
trademark. Kind of.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
That's
I'm
a
sorry.
wireless printer.
It's a wireless
I did
printer.
not mean to confuse your facial tissue with Kleenex.
It's pretty nice.
Scanner,
Scanner.
copier.
Yeah.
Cool.
It was, ours ran out of ink.
This is going to sound like my story for going and getting a printer.
The last time we went out and got ink was, I think, the first time in 3 years that I put ink in that printer.
Oh my gosh.
I
You
never
don't
print
print
anything.
much.
I print at work if I need to print something. And I rarely need to do that. So I think in the last 7 months I printed my boarding passes when we went to go visit Megan, and that's it.
Oh, speaking of, did you get that 70,000-page manuscript I sent you printed off for me at work?
No,
No?
not yet. I'm still working on it. Page at a time.
Just
Page at a
checking.
time.
One page at a time. They'll have it done in 69,995 days.
I started about 100 days ago.
Oh, okay. Oh, good.
The editor's asking for some revisions. I'd like to be able to send it in.
The printer was so old, our Windows
here's what I
7
got.
computers wouldn't recognize the printer. Our old printer, so that's why we had to upgrade. Because it was kind of a pain to go over to the desktop and pull up whatever we wanted to print from the other computer, and so... Yeah, we did that. Started watching Helix.
Oh,
You
that's the
needed,
new
you
Ron
needed a
Moore
new
show.
printer anyway, but you probably could have installed a print server on your computer there that would have talked to your laptops.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, because...
It would have acted as an intermediary, and you could have still printed with it.
I didn't know
It's
how
a
to do
print
that.
server, and the print server would have been old enough to talk to the printer, but also use
New enough
your
to use
network
it.
to.
Well, see, I was trying to use the network to get the laptops to recognize... Because I had it set up on a network. Just the drivers wouldn't install on the Windows 7 to print.
That's what I'm saying. If you
So the
had
server would have
the print server
circumvented.
acts as the
Gotcha.
acts as what you need your drivers for, and then it
Well,
has the old drivers for the
Ink's
printer.
cheaper in this one
Well, yeah.
anyways.
Well, I thought you were going to tell me it was like mine. I went out to buy ink for my last printer, which our ink cartridges were for the color was like $30, and for the black was $25. Actually, it was $35 and $25.
That's about what mine was.
$50, $60 for ink just to buy both. And so I went out and was going to buy ink, and then I went down the aisle. This has been a year ago, but I went down the aisle and I saw printers in there, and they had this great HP printer, It was, the copy scan.
Yeah.
It was wireless, everything for $70. And I thought, and it comes with ink. And I thought for like $10 more, I could get a new printer that's wireless. And then the bonus of that is then I went and looked at how I priced the ink, and the ink, it was actually $10 or $15 cheaper than what my old printer was.
Yeah, that's what I did when I did a lot of research looking up. And then I kind of wrote this one off. A little too out of the price range. Went on sale today at Best Buy.
Oh, where is that right?
Yeah. We waited till Sunday till the ads came out to double check everything. So
There you go. What frugal shopper, you.
I'm very frugal. I went to Walmart with the printers and saw a $30 one and said, well, that one would probably have the drivers that could work, that I could use it as a network printer. Why not that one? And Sarah was like, let's go Wi-Fi. I was going to go even cheaper than that one.
You're funny.
Because I'm cheap.
Yeah.
Give up the rotary phone.
I was a very late adopter to smartphones, too.
Yes, you were.
Other than that, had coffee with my dad and got belated Christmas presents of the Planet of the Apes vinyls, which are very cute.
Well, they don't bobble, though.
Nope, they're not bobbleheads.
Oh, that's right. They're the
vinyls.
Well, the Pop makes
Bobbleheads, because that's
right.
the Ewok is a bobblehead.
And we just got in R2D2 today. Bobblehead.
Is his head bobble or is his whole body bobble?
Well, he looks to be a fairly squat piece of plastic, in my opinion. So I'm not sure on that. I don't know what bobbles. I shook that package 6 ways from Sunday. I got
well,
nothing.
they're packaged in such a way you can't tell what bobbles until you take it out.
Maybe it'll meet with an unfortunate accident. Well,
is it
being
taped?
merchandised. I don't know.
If the box is not taped, it's very easy to take it out, look at it, and put it back in.
Well, not nearly as much fun as ripping it open, though.
Well, I'll show you. But it's not. You don't need to rip it open.
Keith, you're misunderstanding my point. It's more fun to just take a box and go.
Do you want to
look at the boss and then go, oops?
Okay. I was just trying to keep you from owning something you might not necessarily want.
I don't own anything I don't want. Don't tell Mel that, but I want everything that I own.
And went to Hot Topic because we had Hot Topic cash. So we got $30 worth of minifigs for $15 plus tax.
You really couldn't think of anything
I looked at every
better.
the other stuff.
Now, for the listeners at home, I put better in quotation marks.
I looked. All their
minifigs.
shirts they had, for like Doctor Who shirts and stuff, and I wasn't impressed with any of the other ones. Were all women's. Like there was this nice. I was really impressed by one of the. I think it was an 11th Doctor shirt, or it was all the Doctors. I can't remember which. And it was an extra large, and probably would have fit. But I pulled it out. Oh nope, that's a woman's shirt.
Oh, because it's actually got the fitted cut.
The fitted cut, the
Gotcha.
sleeves. It's not the unisex.
Did you
shirt.
just say sleeves?
Sleeves. It's got the sleeves thrown out.
Stop looking at my headgear.
Yeah, and other than
Cut
that,
it out, Tyler.
I recommend Helix if you haven't watched that yet.
That's the new Ron Moore show, right?
It is the new Ron
on
Moore.
Swiffy.
Yeah, it has a very. It feels like if The Thing, Outbreak, and Sunshine had a child. Partially because the captain from Sunshine is on this show.
If the Thing, Outbreak, and
Because it's-
Sunshine had a child, it would be Helix.
Because it has a very alien feel to it, but it's a virus, and they're set in the Antarctic. So,
Oh, yeah. I can totally see it now.
and atmospherically, it's
Wow.
phenomenal.
All right. Well, I've seen all those movies, so I don't have to bother with you.
Original thing or
Well,
Carpenter's
Carpenter's thing.
Carpenter's thing. Or Seeds of Doom thing.
Carpenter's thing.
Carpenter's thing.
It starts with the infected people being all zombie-ish and attacking people to oh crap, this really, really cheery song. It's bizarre. It's really bizarre.
Well, that sounds right up my alley.
I don't know where it's only 3 episodes in, so I can't vouch too much for it. I mean, 3
You are
episodes of
such a
Battlestar
ray of
Galactica
sunshine.
was what it was.
I was hooked on Galactica from the start, though.
Hopefully,
Yeah,
it's only going to be 3 or 13 episodes and done, because I don't see how they can get past that.
It's very easy. Apparently, Swiffy will hand over a check and say, "Season 2, please,"
If
and they'll
they
say,
can get
"Okay."
to 13 episodes, then
considering that Ronald D.
execs
Moore
will
is
say,
also
"Okay,
doing Outlander,
13 more.
hopefully he won't be as willing to do it.
Is Outlander also on Swiffy?
No, that's a Cinemax show.
Oh,
It's weird that it's Ronald D. Moore.
real money.
It's weird that it's Ronald D. Moore because it's this woman gets transported to 400 Scotland. That's it, and then it's like a romance period drama. So it seems very odd
So
that it's
in the future they start naming years along with countries?
in that time period in Scotland.
Oh, not 400 Scotland.
I totally was with him.
I
thank you.
It sounded
You're
like an
400
address to
Scotland.
me. He was transported to 400 Scotland.
400 AD Scotland.
It's a Doctor Who podcast. Why not?
I got-
You're in the year 400 Scotland.
I said time
You saw
travel.
that- yeah. You saw the little words come up
I did.
in your head.
Yeah.
480 Scotland.
What was the one in New Earth? Or /Apple. 400 Scotland's easier to remember. I got this.
What else did you guys do?
I won Doctor Who. Saying I lied to my evening. It was fun. Kids went over for a sleepover at Grandma and Papa's house, and we got grown-up night out.
It was fun to have an adult date night.
It
We hadn't done
was,
that in a
yeah.
long time.
It was fun. Well, we played Monopoly.
I
Had
think
some
it's probably-
drinks. Had some good food.
That's probably one of the few times I can count on one hand that I was able to hang out with Holly.
That's true. It's very rare.
Yeah, Holly made an appearance outside the Batcave. It was quite the momentous
And
undertaking
we went
this
to
weekend.
Texas Roadhouse beforehand too, and had dinner. And that was really nice. Just nice, quiet dinner. Well, it wasn't quiet, as the place is loud, but nice, quiet or nice kidless dinner without just the two of us. Kids had basketball yesterday morning. We've been playing a lot more Minecraft. That's pretty much the extent of my week. It's been
More Minecraft.
my home projects where I hung a hook for the kids' coats.
You'll forgive me if that doesn't sound nearly as ambitious as moving a wardrobe out of your garage or
No,
cleaning
did
the
you do that?
gutters. No, you did that.
Oh, yeah, the wardrobe.
On your scale of home improvement projects, hanging a hook's kind of like me.
Oh, that was kind of, yeah. It seems like I did something else this weekend too, but I can't remember what it was.
I don't know. Maybe you hung it on the ceiling, and
No.
it's a
front door.
game. You have to throw your coats up at the hook, and there's a hoop, and
No, that was it. I guess we did a lot of cleaning, so that was housework too. That's it. Nothing. No, just move on. What did you do, Sean? I'm not gonna sit there and drag out what I did. I didn't do anything.
You didn't do anything. I lost at Monopoly again.
Did I finish Sherlock this week? Maybe that's what I did.
You
Or
did
I finish
Sherlock
last week.
No, well, no, because
Oh yeah, I finished Sherlock.
You finished
this week. That's
Sherlock.
right. I watched the.
We finished Sherlock too.
yeah,
Well, I finished it tonight. You finished it
last week,
last week.
Oh.
Well,
Monday.
whenever you got off the plane,
And it premiered tonight on.
and it premiered tonight on PBS.
So.
And my boss
Do
is
we know?
watching it.
Are they going to push it back? Is there going to be a week gap on the week 3 on PBS
Why would there be a week gap?
because it's going against the Super Bowl?
Oh,
I don't think PBS cares.
I wonder if that's a smart move on the Super Bowl's part. Sherlock's huge. It's event television. People are going to tune into Sherlock instead of the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
PBS has a good deal right now. Too.
Go smart people.
Downton and Sherlock
Downton
back to
and
back.
Sherlock, yeah. I don't know. Anyway, what else did you do?
No, we finished Sherlock, which is phenomenal. If you haven't seen it, hurry up.
Did you miss me?
It does come out if
Tell him I called
he
that.
did call it.
Tell him I called that.
Well, I told you that he called it.
Yeah, I guess you did.
No spoilers.
No
and
spoilers.
before he even started, it comes out on Blu-ray.
This is the
DVD,
first time that I can actually sit here and go, hey, I know something
You know
that
something
other
too.
people don't know.
It comes out on DVD and Blu-ray February 11th.
Really? Already? Oh, they're pushing that through.
Same day as the Moonbase.
Ooh. Smart marketing, BBC. All your dollars are belong to us. What else? I worked a lot. The boss called me. He says, so normally we would schedule an inventory for Sunday night. I was like, yeah. He says, and normally the guys that work Sunday don't have to do inventory because you've been there all day. I was like, yeah, that's kind of why I like Sundays, because they don't do inventory. He says, well, I don't have enough people. Nobody's available. We have to get this done. So, okay, which one is it? It's card inventory. Because that means you got to count all those magic cards.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah.
We heard that story.
You complained many a times about that.
That's that one.
So we know.
I was like, well, at least we know how to bulk now. We can 3,974. Beep.
That.
Okay. You still had to count 3,794 of them, but so yeah, I was like, well, I think we should do it Thursday morning.
Bet you weren't beeping them one at a time. Though,
No, we weren't beeping one at a time. 1, 2, and then beep. So he says, I want to do it Thursday morning. Okay. Can you come in at 6
a.m.?
Yeah.
Oof.
Okay. And then he made the joke kind of offhandedly. He says, hey, I suppose you could work all day because I'm scheduled to close Thursday night. I don't want to. But then I thought about it. I was like, we've got so much stuff that needs to be done, and I'm never... Because I show up for my shift, and I immediately... It's time to put out fire mode, you're running around doing stuff and helping customers, and I never get anything done. So I kind of thought about it for a minute. I was like, it's a scheduled shift. Everybody's going to be there. I can actually get stuff done. Yeah, okay, I will. I'm going to work all day. He says, really? I was like, yeah. So I showed up at 6 in the morning and worked.
This was Thursday?
Thursday. Straight through until, my shift started at 2 and worked straight through close. So I actually put in 16 hours on Thursday.
Wow.
Which sucks, let me tell you.
It'll be a nice paycheck, though.
Yeah, I'm not going to complain about it. Well, then I showed up on Saturday, and I was a little early. He goes, you are early. It's like, well, yeah. He goes, you're leaving at 7 tonight. Really? Goes, yes.
Cut out that overtime.
Yeah, well, they apparently, initially it was, yeah, sure, come in, work all day. And then did the numbers, went, oh my God. You know how much we're paying this kid? So, yeah, he would... Now, here's the fun story: is I've got all these little projects. I want to do this, want to do this, want to do this. Blu-ray, which need reorganizing. It needs alphabetization horribly. I just walk through the store. I can walk through any aisle in my store right now and go, out of place, out of place, out of place, out of place. I'm not looking. I'm just picking things up that I know are out of place because it's that bad. And I'm going to work on all this Thursday. No, what happened Thursday after inventory? I transferred out all of our overstock. 12 boxes of overstock stuff that we just have too many of. And as soon as I finished the last box of overstock, the UPS guy arrived with this week's shipment.
No.
And I spent the rest of the day receiving. So I spent all day long getting rid of product and then turning around and receiving product. And I told him that story. He goes, yeah, you should just pretty much plan on doing that Thursdays from now on. It's like, I don't want to do this Thursday. I got other things I got to get done. So... Ooh. So that part
not
of it.
16-hour days.
No, not 16-hour days. No, but
You're art vandal. You were in imports, and then you decided to do more of a focus on exports.
Yeah.
You're an importer-export.
I'm an import. Just from a very small centralized location. I don't think I moved from in front of that computer for 15 of those 16 hours. It really sucked.
I like how the new Blu-rays look.
Thanks.
The section.
They're coming along.
Moving the TV separately and then the kids.
Yeah, it's coming
like
along.
You probably didn't see me when I snuck in there Saturday.
Today? No, Saturday? No, I didn't see anything
You were
Saturday.
busy. I didn't bother you.
I had Saturday was yet another of the long line of, so-and-so's called in. Yeah, sure. We'll just go. He did. Ricardo really wanted me to close for him. It's like, I'm not closing. I have adult date night plans tonight. I can't close. Well, what if you stayed until... No. I've already been told I'm leaving at 7. I need to go. But, so we did that. And then we came over here and had it very, very enjoyable. I think we ought to make that a regular thing.
Yeah, I think so, too.
Or at least as regular as, kids' schedules can allow for. And
so
maybe not Monopoly.
We'll look into getting Settlers of Catan if one of you guys want to pick up the expansion pack. That way 6 people can play.
Yeah.
What would I do with an expansion pack?
We could rotate.
I don't know.
We could rotate in a week at our house, and then we wouldn't have to send our kids anywhere. We just have to be a little quieter when Mason's in bed.
Yeah.
That would work too.
Cool. All right, there's us planning our personal lives on the show again. You're welcome, listeners. Anything
like
else?
No, I think that was
Let's
pretty much
move
it.
on to news. Let's find out what happened this week. I have no idea.
A couple of people passed away.
Oh, yeah. Sad stuff.
On Thursday, Roger Lloyd Pack passed away, who was John Lumick in Rise of Cybermen Age of Steel. Also, Barty Crouch Sr.
I lost a twofer there.
In Harry Potter.
Yes,
In
in
Harry
Harry Potter. At the age of 69.
Yeah, he had pancreatic cancer, is what I read. So, another Brit with cancer. That's something's wrong. Something in the water or something. That's just. They seem to every time you hear a British or even like European actor passing away, it's cancer and it's at a young age. I wonder what's going on. It just makes me.
Well, they drink red wine with dinner and smoke.
No. That's not why. That's why the French are living so long. But I don't know. That's weird.
Oh, well.
Anyway, so
Are they?
they are the French, man. You can't kill those guys. I don't know what not that we want to kill the French. I just
Moving right along.
anyway.
Am I the only one that thought that came out really wrong?
Well, that came out really wrong.
Move on, Keith. Move on.
On Saturday.
Same day, by the way, unrelated to Doctor Who. The actor that played the professor on Gilligan's Island passed away. The actor that played Reuben Kincaid on Partridge Family, if you don't know Partridge Family, he was the band manager, passed away. And one of the Munchkins, one of the last Munchkins from The Wizard of Oz,
I was telling Sarah that I
passed away
remembered
as
somebody
well.
else who
So,
that. I can remember.
there's only one surviving Munchkin now left of all of them. So
and these were
The
of
Wizard of Oz.
Lollipop Guild, weren't they?
I don't know what she was.
I thought I saw that
The one that's still alive is is a Lollipop Guild.
I thought the last surviving ones were, because they were kind of the youngest.
Yeah.
I thought the Lollipop Guild was all guys.
It is. This gal was something else, but the one that is still alive is the last remaining wasn't. He's right. It wasn't the Lollipop Guild.
The one that died was not the Lollipop.
Was not.
I can. Gotcha now.
He was grouping them together, but
I was
yes,
grouping
no,
them together.
He's right in the sense that the one that's still living was.
Speaking of the Munchkins, does anybody go on and see if they can find a copy of Under the Rainbow? Over the Rainbow.
Under the Rainbow.
Under the Rainbow.
Yeah.
That's the Chevy Chase one, right?
Yeah.
For some reason, that popped in my
Wasn't
head
it
the
Under
other
the
day.
Rainbow? I think it was Under the Rainbow. Yeah.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Oh, wonderful.
That's an
movie.
HBO staple.
Oh, yeah. God, I watched it all the time. Yeah. Get chuckles now thinking of that.
I don't know why. I have no idea why.
Let's not get too cheery yet. We have more dust.
It popped
Yeah,
in my
that's true.
head. And
That's
I was
true.
just, aww. Now I'm sad again.
Yeah.
I had to stay off Twitter. I really did, because every time it was like, oh, so-and-so R&B.
Yeah, gosh,
and
it was
then
bad,
I was sad about John Lumick, but when I saw the professor from Gilligan's Island, I was like, I'm done. I can't. Yeah.
Also was Ken True, who designed the 7th Doctor's costume, as well as revamping the 3rd Doctor's costume, and creating the first costume for the Master, played by Roger Delgado. He died at 77. At the age of 77. His first involvement with Doctor Who was The Mythmakers. With
He
William
died
Hartnell.
at 77. The age 77. Okay.
Scotland.
Yeah, 77 Scotland. He died at 77 Scotland. Another address.
That was where his home is, so everyone can drive by and pay their respects.
77 Scotland.
He'll have a big question mark mowed into the lawn.
Yeah. Oh, no.
And he assisted...
I know.
What?
Oh, that was...
He helped design the Cybermen story, The Invasion. He was an assistant to the designer on that.
That's cool.
And designed the opening story of Pertwee's second season, Terror of the Autons, adding more color to his costume.
Well, of course, thoughts, prayers, and meditations out to their family and friends, and they will be missed. All right, let's move on to a little happier news.
Well, there's going to be a e-book, and hopefully a actual book, of 4 stories.
That's the story of Martha all over again. I just know it.
It's called The Tales of Trenzalore.
See, there's that's a
Because
pattern.
we haven't talked
and
about
then the
death enough. We haven't talked about death enough. Let's go to Trenzalore again.
So it's a collection of 4 novellas set during the 11th Doctor's centuries defending the planet Trenzalore.
I'm actually kind of excited by
And
the
it's
idea.
all from the point of view of Martha. Oh, wait.
Writers include Justin Richards, who we've praised before, George Mann, Paul Finch, and Mark Morris.
Remind me, what did Justin Richards do?
He wrote the Halloween book, didn't he?
No.
One most
I
recently.
think I have those. Hold on.
Was that... that does sound familiar, though.
Apollo 23.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah, I liked that one.
I think that's the only one we've read.
He's done Big Finish then or something. We've read his
He
name
has
out
done
somewhere.
something else, yeah.
He's doing he did Plague of the Cybermen, which we haven't read yet.
What intrigues me, well,
Maybe
it
that's
just,
what I'm
it
thinking
just
of,
went
yeah.
away. What intrigues me, have you seen the cover of the ebook cover
Of Tales from Trenzalore?
of Tales from Trenzalore?
Is it an ebook?
It says ebook.
It does, okay.
I hope it. I'm just hoping that it makes sense to release it as, since it's 4 stories. Just put out.
Kill some more trees! Ah!
I'll print it on my new printer.
Well, then get an ebook. Print it on your printer.
I will if they're not going to release one.
The
You
cover,
can bound the cover, too.
you could. The cover's got a crinoid on it.
Each novel features a classic Doctor Who monster. Justin
So more
Richards'
than
story
just-
features the Ice Warriors.
So more than just the ones we saw.
George Mann. There's 4 stories. There's 4 creatures on the cover.
Ah.
Ice
George
Warriors.
Mann's story features the Crinoid. Paul Finch's features Autons. And Mark Morris's features the Mara.
Well, that's clever. Well, now we have to.
That's why I
now we
kinda-
have to watch the Mara Tales before we
Before I can read
review
this.
Yeah,
this.
that's kind of why I got a little excited by that. Because I thought that's what
February
we were gonna do.
27th is when it will be released.
We're not going to get to him by then.
Well, maybe we could do the
You're going to
Mara.
have to put off your...
Maybe we could do the Mara
by
Tales in
printing?
March, and we could review this in March.
maybe we could do that.
Yeah.
And we could do one story a week, maybe.
Even better.
And then-
But
and
we're
then-
going to have a
and then-
we're going to have a 50th anniversary ebook
Well,
in there
that's
too.
true.
So I'll put too much reading on my plate. I might not get it done.
What excited me about that, because initially I saw the crinoid, and of course it's the classic image of,
Spaghetti monster.
yeah. And I was like, ugh, really? And then I thought about it. It was like a planet with no technology. And the crinoid's a plant. Oh, I like this plant already. Yes, I'm really excited now. Because you know me, I love crinoid.
Yeah.
Bring it on!
Scorby!
Scorby!
Oh, maybe he comes and helps. as a
1,000
mercenary.
points if Scorby shows
Oh,
up
that
on
would be
Trenzalore
awesome.
and kills everybody.
After he gets out of that bog.
He put a bomb in the center of the planet and he's just going to blow it up. Resulting in the crack, which trapped Gallifrey. It's Scorby's fault.
So Tales of Trenzalore comes out in February.
Yes.
Cool.
Sorry,
Exciting
I'm
news.
looking up Justin Richards to see what else he's done.
All right. Well, our next bit of news is, unfortunately, the online
Whispers of
MMO
Terror.
Worlds of Time is closing soon. So
Yes.
if you've been playing that and you don't have a lot of time left. However,
Better
I did
hurry up to
see
get to
that
the end of the game.
they are giving you some. If you've paid some of the premium prices for it, they are giving you some discounts off in the Doctor Who store. I think it is, 15% or something like that.
Existing players are welcome to use their earned game currency over the next 2 months, and will be available through the customer support and game maintenance will be available through the shutdown date of February 24th.
Yeah.
Important note, that's Worlds in Time, not Legacy.
Yes, though Legacy will not be going anywhere soon.
We hope.
It won't. Man, the thing's doing so well. Hey, if you
up for a lot
if you haven't done it yet, go over and vote for it, please, as best app ever. In the puzzles game, I got to find out what the address is because I'm so into this game. I'm so hooked on this game. This game is so awesome.
Did you get handles yet?
I did. I've got they dropped 4 characters this week.
Oh, that's right.
Handles, and then I think 2 or 3 church soldiers, and I got them all. So I'm back to I'm back to waiting now.
Well, and
Stormageddon comes out at sometime this week, I think.
I saw that they were going to release all these additional figures, so I went back because they said, "Oh, they're going to be Series 7." So I went back into Series 7.
6.
Series 6?
They're in Series 6.
They're in Series 6.
Oh, well, that's why I haven't seen them yet.
Yeah.
I went back into... I misread it because I thought they were in 7, so I went back into 7 and started playing. And I'm wondering if there's not a finite number of peoples that they can set up for this. Because, man, I got like 4 new character drops.
See, I've gone back
as
and
soon as
played
I went and played the level. It was like boom, 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 boom. People that I've been trying to unlock forever. Just one after another after another. I was like, all right, rock on. And maybe it's because I still have so many people backed up in the pipe that I haven't got out yet. That they went, oh, there's new people. You better push some of these guys out. So I still can't get Cleopatra, but I got the 2 worthless soldiers and one of the worthless kids. And
I'm still missing a lot of those. I just recently got Clara.
People I will never play with.
BestAppEver.com. That's simply what it is. Can't believe I didn't remember that. Right now it is competing in the Best Puzzle Game category. And the nominees right now are Cut the Rope 2, Scurvy... I can't read. It's cutting off the rest of... Scurvy Savages? No, I'm not sure what it is. Doctor Who Legacy, Device 6, The Room 2, Dots, a game about concentration, Tiny Thief, 868 Hack, Black Bar, The Room. That's it. Go in there and vote. Best app ever, because it really is, and I love it. And I'm voting again because I think this is the next round that has come up. Yep, sure is. Cool. So hopefully it'll keep moving on, and it will be number 1.
There will be also representatives at Galley 1.
Legacy? Reps? Tiny Rebel Games
reps.
people are going to be
promoting the game and giving out lots of goodies to attendees.
Oh, I'm going to book my tickets now. I'm serious, man. These guys are... I love this game. It's awesome. Cool. Can you see if you can snag me some stuff, Sean?
Get an interview. I'll bring you a promotional swag bag.
Yeah, bring me some
swag.
swag.
Get an interview with them.
Ooh, yeah, get an interview. Get an interview. Did I show you that? Probably saw me post it. Look at the bottom.
Holy shnikes.
If you haven't seen it on
Never
my
seen
Facebook
a double-digit combo.
I got a 20 combo the other day, and I snapped a picture of it on my phone. Anyway, we're back. Get roped back into Legacy. Talking about Legacy again. Okay, so Worlds in Time. We are. We didn't add that. We should have added the handles. Was announced and came down on Friday, and so he's a droppable character.
Dark Lord of Oro.
Stormageddon will be in a future ad.
Yeah,
not on there yet, but my understanding from the email was it was in the next coming week.
And they're taking suggestions of costumes to release and
which doctors we want to see. In fact, you can vote on which doctor
they released a poll.
War Doctor.
Was it part of the poll, was it?
Yeah, he was.
Oh, it was part of the poll, yeah. That's right.
I don't know. I haven't seen
I think it was part of the poll.
It was all the options.
It was everything,
I think
everything left.
Everybody but Capaldi.
Ooh, yeah.
No, Capaldi was on there too.
Was he?
Yes,
Peter
he was. Capaldi, but no, Cushing was.
Shaka Doctor. Shaka Doctor so fits in this. He even looks like he could be on. He stepped off the pages of Legacy.
That would be awesome if they did that, but I don't know. Anyway.
What was the name of this website that I have to go to?
BestAppEver.com.
Best app. Two P's an app?
Yes.
2 P's an app?
Uh-huh.
Glenn shared a link on Facebook.
I did, just now. Because I voted again. Because it's the second of the next round.
Oh, is there more?
Welcome to Best App
I think there was. Because these weren't ones that it was up against the other days.
Oh, so it's moving on.
It is moving on, apparently.
Okay.
Did you not get there?
I got somewhere.
Go to Facebook and then click on my link.
Okay.
All right, and then Keith's got some news about DVD.
Recently found Web Planets. Web of Fear.
I totally...
What? They found Web Planet? Oh my gosh.
Was that missing?
What?
Wait, Web Planet wasn't missing.
I have to be honest. Okay, I'm looking for your link, so I'm only half listening to you. I know we covered this in show notes, so I know theoretically what's coming up. DVD news, you said recently found, and then trailed off. And the back of my head went, oh, what did they find? And I started to pull away right as you said web something, and my brain went, filing cabinet. That's not missing. They found it. Maybe they found the extra piece. No.
An extra piece of Web Planet? There wasn't.
Not Web
there wasn't
Planet,
even a
Web,
piece missing. Oh,
Web of Fear
Yeah,
are still
okay, got it.
they animate the one, right?
I got you.
Yes.
Okay, so
Are they animating it?
Well, let's
I thought so.
look closely at this release.
Instead, what he's going to give us is we finally have a North American release date for pardon me, not North American because it's in Canada. A U.S. release date for Web of Fear.
Yes.
Is Web of Fear Canada a new enemy of the
It
world?
isn't. Yes.
Is it?
I thought so. Wasn't that also?
It's got a
determine
$20
it was both of them.
MSRP.
Okay.
I thought it was available there.
But there's still no release date, North American release. Excuse me. There's no U.S. release date for Enemy of the World.
No, there isn't.
No, there isn't.
Huh.
Okay, so it doesn't say if it's for sure being animated, but it says will likely fill the gap by recreating the missing episode using animation and seeking it's a restored recording of the audio. So finalized extras and package aren't available, but there's the key art is available is what it's called, which is kind of the art before they put the logos on it.
Right.
There it is. Glenn's link.
So that's
I don't
exciting.
Want to download. I already have
Yeah,
it.
I'm excited. I can't wait to own that. Although I
I've
already own
previously,
it on iTunes.
rats,
but-
apparently I've already voted for it.
You have?
Apparently
I had
it tells
to.
me I've previously voted for Doctor Who
Oh,
Legacy for Best
Look
Puzzle
at you
Game.
guys. Well, you guys are on top of it then.
All
Good
right.
job.
All right. Well, should we move on to feedback?
Feedback. First up, London Eye sent in a message saying, "Hello, Vortex, Vorkansans." That's it, Vorkansans. I admit I have been wanting to spend more time listening to your podcasts than writing to them. But rest assured, listening to podcasts than writing to them. But rest assured, I have listened avidly since I discovered your podcast several months ago. I keep coming up with things to comment about, but never write them down. I do remember some things from listening to the recent episodes. A few episodes ago, you discussed the Cybermen and spare parts. There was a discussion of what the first cyborg was, and apparently the Cybermen and 10th Planet were the first ones televised. According to the Wikipedia, the American show Wild West got the first cyborg on TV earlier the same year as 10th Planet. The first one that came to mind, however, was the Tin Woodsman, best known as the Tin Man of Oz. I've always considered the character, now more than 100 years old, to be the first cyborg. Similar to how the Cybermen came about, the Tin Man came into being as different body parts of his were replaced after accidents with a bad enchanted axe. Apparently, there are cyborgs much older than the Tin Man, including one created by Poe. The Tin Man of Oz was indeed the first to make it to television in one TV series and two made-for-TV movies in the early 1960s. Can't really see any connections between the Tin Man and the Cybermen, though Cybermen in New Who resemble the Tin Man more than previous models, and are a lot more clanky. In a more recent podcast, someone mentioned the prospect of having a 50th Doctor Who anniversary like the 40th had been. That is, with little at all. Considering such an unfortunate alternate reality, with no restart of the show in 2005, I thought of something that might be a little different. Peter Davison perhaps still would have made a version of the 5-ish Doctors, but perhaps with Paul McGann involved a lot more, as he had no Night of the Doctor project to take his time. Fortunately, we got a lot more on the 50th than anyone during the Doctor Who 40th anniversary would have imagined, and I don't think the upcoming Star Trek 50th anniversary celebration will nearly be as good. Keep up the good work, Mayor of Othar.
Very good.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your loyalness?
Which, and if you haven't seen, it's on our Facebook page. He sent in a video of him unboxing
That's right.
his vinyl figure.
He got, ironically enough, the 8th Doctor,
Yeah.
which he says in the video, if you haven't seen it on Facebook yet, it's his Doctor, because that was the first one that he saw. So
Now, maybe I'll wait. I'll hold on that for a minute.
Okay.
I have something, but I don't want to spoil it, so I'll wait.
Oh, okay.
Well, then go ahead and read Brittany's email, and then we can get to that.
Yeah, though, good. You're thinking what I'm thinking. Brittany writes, "Here it is. Of course, I would get it the day after you record, but here's my pick this time. It's Doctor Number 9, the first Doctor I ever watched, and he had me at run. Thanks for doing the contest and for the awesome prize. There was no need to apologize for the lateness of it. Holidays are crazy. I hope there are going to be more contests in the future. Please. LOL. And she sent a pic of her 9. Now, what I was going
Which
to
I think we
spoil.
shared on Facebook also.
Yes.
Didn't we manage to get, through a weird bit of serendipity, everybody who got one, didn't they comment that was like their first Doctor?
Well, I went back to Holly's, and she doesn't say that. She got 11. She
Yeah.
doesn't say that 11 was her first Doctor, but I can't remember if she ever stated
can't
where she
remember either.
started, whether she started the series with 11 or not. So,
Holly,
Holly, if
you're
you're
gonna have to
listening,
let us know.
if 11 was your first Doctor. That's kind of actually spooky. that all of them got their first Doctor.
Well,
And-
just
and
doing
if-
2 out of 3
I mean,
is
I
pretty
planned
good.
that on purpose.
And if 11 wasn't your first Doctor, lie to us.
And say he's your favorite.
Don't lie. Lying is not nice.
This important public service announcement.
All right. Very good. Well, congratulations, Brittany.
You
And
ready for the novel?
Holly and Chris. Huh?
Alex is next.
Alex is next.
And he wrote a long one.
Alex writes, then I'll get right to it. The clock has struck 12. Hey guys, Alex here, wishing everyone at Traveling the Vortex a belated Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and inoffensive, non-specific winter festive period. I personally have had a very hectic winter holiday, which is why I'm only just getting around to sending in my review of Time in the Doctor now. I know it's basically February at this point, well, not quite yet. I honestly thought that once I started going back to college, things would calm down a bit and I'd have time to send in some feedback, but it turns out that college life is in fact more hectic than holiday life. Who knew?
I did.
Anyway, here's a few of my thoughts on the Time of the Doctor. First things first. I get that the 3, the X of the Doctor stories from the Loose Trilogy, and I like that. He's referring to the
Form a Loose trilogy.
The X of the Doctor.
Yeah, Form a Loose Trilogy.
It's actually a quadrilogy
The
because you have to
blank of the
include
Doctor.
Night of the Doctor.
Well, yes, that's true.
No, I don't think you do.
Yes, you do.
No, because I'm going back, and night is just a clever way to prelude day, but it doesn't really act as a quad because the story centers around the 11th Doctor, and all of those have that in common except for that. So there's a reason for that. We'll discuss it later because I actually went back and watched all of them myself recently. And I like that, but I think that a much better title for this episode would have been The Man Who Stayed for Christmas.
Oh, that would have been a good
Ooh,
name.
that's a good title.
Sean still likes Silent Night.
I did like Silent Night.
It's less melodramatic and a lot more fairy tale, and I think it suits the story and the 11th Doctor much better. The episode was, as Dr. Phil described it, a Christmas fable, and as such, I think a slightly more fable-esque title would have been more appropriate. That aside, I really enjoyed the Time of the Doctor. It has its flaws, but ultimately it's a top-notch send-off for one of the most talented actors to ever step on board the TARDIS. Smith quite rightly stole the show in this episode, giving his best performance, arguably the best Doctor performance to date. He was young and old and silly and clever and dangerous and euphoric and all the things that make the Doctor the brilliant man that he is. For me, the tears started rolling at "You must patch the telephone device back through the console unit," and reached a crescendo at "I will always remember when the Doctor was me." His final 5 minutes or so in particular were complete perfection. Not only was Smith immensely moving, but the dialogue was heartfelt and beautifully written. I was kind of hoping that the Doctor would finish up with "Because I am the Doctor," which would have been all kinds of crazy awesome. But you can't have everything.
It would have been good to work that song in.
Oh.
I am the Doctor.
Yeah.
You know?
Jenna Coleman, who also gave an excellent performance. How many actresses can deliver such an emotional speech to a crack in a wall? And I really like how relatable Clara has become in the past 2 stories. I've always liked Clara, but her impossible girl arc in Series 7 meant I was never quite sure if I could trust her. With that cleared up, she's free to be her own person at last, rather than a plot thread to be resolved, and that distinction really shone through these episodes. The little scenes with her family were golden, and just enough to show us why Clara loves traveling so much. The overbearing father, the doozy... Is it doozy? Doozy. Dozy? Doozy. Okay. The doozy grandmother, the downright wicked stepmother, and a sense of isolation from her own family that I'm sure most people have felt at one point in their lives or another. All I can say is I'm really looking forward to seeing her return with Capaldi next season. Speaking of Capaldi, those eyes, that voice, does anyone know how to fly this thing? We may have only gotten 30 seconds or so of the 12th Doctor in action, but I am absolutely over the moon with him. I can't wait to see what he brings to the role, and watching the shift in dynamic between Clara and the Doctor following the regeneration should be interesting. And whilst we're talking about regeneration, there's been a lot of negative chatter online, isn't there always? But I, for one, love the speedy, boom, new Doctor, unexpectedness of it. It was new and innovative and surprised everyone, as Doctor Who should always endeavor to do. I agree with you. Totally agree.
And it makes sense in this story.
As for the story of this episode, I found it extremely heartwarming and suitably epic for 11's final outing, though it does suffer structurally from repetition and tries to cram an awful lot of exposition into the viewer's head very quickly. There is something of a recurring problem in Moffat's stories in that he ties up too many loose ends too quickly, resolving the story but not giving the viewer any emotional payoff. Case in point is the exploding TARDIS. We find out that it was the Silence who blew up the ship. Called it. But the information is delivered to us in such a throwaway manner that it doesn't feel like a satisfying resolution. It's like reaching the last chapter of a murder mystery and finding an author's note explaining who killed who and how they did it. It resolves the story but doesn't give the characters in the story an emotional payoff. Reading back over what I just wrote, it seems as if I had a lot of problems with The Time of the Doctor, but I can honestly say I didn't. By and large, I love the story, from its music to its production design to its fairy tale tone and setting. It wasn't the best Doctor Who in the world, certainly, but it was a fitting tribute and swan song for 11, and in the end, that's all that matters. I don't think he needed to rewrite that, because I don't think he did. I think he just had that small issue with it. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, going on. Well, I was going to squeeze in my reviews of Planet of the Giants and A Big Hand for the Doctor into this email, but I've rambled on too much and already, and I'm sure you guys have other feedbacks to read as well. I was pretty much going to agree with everything you guys said. Planet of Giants was fun, pacey adventure with excellent production design, and A Big Hand would have been a wonderful little Doctor Who story if not for the completely inappropriate tone. If the tale had been told from another character's perspective, I would have been fine with it, but the fact that it was told from the first Doctor's point of view made the whole thing feel ridiculously out of character. That's a
really interesting way to fix that, quite honestly. I hadn't thought of that until he said that. But
being from someone else's perspective, it would have worked a lot.
That really fixes a lot of that.
Maybe J.M. Barrie.
Yeah. And he embellished things in his mind.
That would have been really cool.
I think so. That's all for me for now. One day I might review something at the same time as you guys, but today it's not that day. Happy traveling. Alex. P.S. When I was listening to episode 158 the other week, I kept getting a reoccurring image in my head of Barbara opening her door at the hotel in the God Complex and being confronted with a pile of giant seeds, and a scientist saying, if a human were to touch these seeds, who knows how devastating the consequences would be. Just felt I had to share that image with you guys. Yeah, that's certainly true.
Awesome.
Up next, Holly. She writes, "Hey guys, just want to warn, this might be a little on the long side for me, so my apologies to whomever has to read my email. Great last podcast. Loved the Are You Fit to Be the Doctor's Companion for Adric bit. Just got the Lives and the Time of the Doctor's book by James Gross and Steve Tribe. I've just started a section on the Third Doctor. It's good. And it's, in a way, almost like a diary. The first Doctor section has diary entries by Susan and the Doctor himself, along with pictures of some of the episodes and adventures. The second Doctor had some of his own personal entries, and then transcripts of his trial with the Time Lords at the end of the War Games. Before moving on to the next Doctors, there's little interviews or comments about that Doctor's era from the actors, writers, and crew members. I'm just reading the excerpt section from the Brig in the Third Doctor's era. A page to the rest of the book, and it does look too full of good stuff. Once I'm finished, I'll try to write up more of my thoughts as a whole on the book. On to the reviews. I think I've heard of this book.
Which one is it?
The Life and Times of the Doctors?
Yeah, I haven't heard of that.
The Lives and Time of the Doctors. I'm going to look that up, because that sounds really interesting.
And definitely let us know more about it when you get there, Holly.
Yeah. State of Decay. I'm sensing a vampire theme again from the opening minutes of this episode, and I don't think I'm going to be proven wrong. Nope, not proven wrong at all. I'm a little surprised that the TARDIS didn't alert the Doctor and Romana to the fact that Adric stowed away on her, unless they knew and were just waiting for Adric to make his presence known. I loved the little conversation between Adric and K9, although Adric probably would have been a bit better off staying put in the TARDIS. But I also think all the Doctor's companions have selective hearing when it comes to the stay in the TARDIS. When those words get uttered, they don't stay put. I wasn't too thrilled with Adric when he let Romana get captured. I was doing that to rescue you. Sure you were. I think that when those vampires offered you a chance at eternal life, you were all for it. At least these vamps weren't of the fish variety. The Doctor and K9 touched on some of the vampire mythologies to find out that the Time Lords could be the first vampire slayers was an interesting twist. All in all, not a bad story. Wrath of the Iceni. A historical audio with the Doctor and Leela landing right in the middle of a war between the Romans and the Britons. The discussions that Leela and the Doctor had about telling Boudica the truth about what was going to happen to her and her people were well done. Leela really wants to save them and tell them what's going to happen. But the Doctor knows what's going to happen, and he knows that if he tells them, he could have quite the effect on the whole history of the world. I wasn't too surprised when Leela decides to leave the Doctor and pledge her allegiance to Boudica. The scene near the end when Leela gets the Doctor to tell Boudica her fate and actually helping free the Doctor was a nice little twist. Leela, for being a warrior and just learning the finer aspects of the world around her, has sure picked up on the double agent part of things pretty quick. Leela also learns that not all leaders are true to what they promise their people and trust advisors. I like Bragnar and her interactions with both the Doctor and Leela. That Bragnar was telling this story to her children at the end and mentioning that it was the song of the Doctor and Leela and that they would never be forgotten as long as this song was sung was a very nice touch and kind of ties things back into New Who nicely. Looking forward to hearing everyone's thoughts on these two stories. Holly from Wisconsin.
Very good. Thank you, Holly.
Thank you, Holly.
And I'm also going to look up that book because that does sound interesting.
The Doctor, His Lives and Times is what it's called.
Huh. Very cool. Yeah, and we're certainly want to hear your full thoughts on the book when you finish.
Up next is Chrissy.
Now with 100% less body glitter. Dear Vortex Boys, forget the feedback song. I think the Who Wants to Be a Companion Game show segment should make a regular appearance. That was hilarious. Are we getting something from
I keep getting...
I think it's because the window's open and
Is
you're
there
hearing
somebody
people
outside?
outside.
But I don't hear it when I take my headphones out. That's what's weird.
See, but I'm hearing it, though.
Oh, okay.
So it has to be that.
Okay.
Sorry, Chrissy. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Game show segment should make a regular appearance. That was hilarious. Though I guess Adric is the only one that would really work with. If you tried it with anyone else, it'd just be mean.
And they'd pass.
Well, that's just it, Chrissy. As I'm pretty sure other companions would probably score a little higher than Adric did. Oh, Adric. Wrath of the Iceni. I can say without reservation that this is my absolute favorite Fourth Doctor audio story Big Finish has done. And I'm including the companion chronicles from the Fourth Doctor era that I've listened to. Leela is 100% in her element. It's like she's meeting a childhood hero that she only just learned about. Hey, I'm certain if Leela had grown up knowing about Boudica, she would have had posters of the woman all over her bedroom wall. If young warrior girls in the Seventeen tribe had posters on their bedroom walls. Anyway, Leela actually gets to be the warrior girl in the story and not just the ignorant savage who doesn't know science and trips over big words and everyone else kind of laughs at her. The whole thing reminded me a lot of Fires of Pompeii, with the Doctor refusing to interfere with fixed points in history and Leela staying behind to use her knowledge of the future to save people. It's very well written and well acted, and I'm really impressed by it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, this is the first pure historical story that Tom Baker's been in. But I really enjoyed it. I hope Big Fish is going to do more like it. Glenn, you back up the claim on the pure historicals for Tom? I was thinking about
you can't count Talons, I guess.
No, because that's not
alien influence there.
Yeah.
Or futuristic.
This is most definitely the first, I think. Now, as far as Big Finish doing more, they might have done more in the line.
Yeah, so far as I can
but there was no televised. I don't think there's been a true historical televised since Hartnell's era.
Black Orchid.
Oh yeah, I guess there. Yeah, I guess I'll say.
But not for Tom.
Black.
Yeah,
I think you're right, Chrissy. I cannot. I've been racking my brain since you asked.
Since Hartnell's era, they've been very few and far between.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Well, Black Orchid, I think that's the only other one. Yeah, I think I think the Highlanders is the last one.
Okay,
well,
missing.
Technically, yeah. But yeah, I since really the early
Black and White era. Yeah.
Now I need to go read up on Queen Boudica. She sounds fascinating. State of Decay. This story has some really good ideas. I love the concept of the civilization having regressed technologically and how things get messed up in translation through the years. If you study history and literature long enough, you start to see how texts lose certain meanings and people start disagreeing how things are supposed to be read, and traditions start going off the rails from what they were originally meant to be. So I really like how this story used that concept. However, I don't think they spent as much time on it as they needed to, and that kind of left the ending a little thin and unsatisfying. It would have been a nice ending if the rebels had learned where they came from, but the Doctor and Romana kind of kept that to themselves. Another thing I wish they'd have done more with, but Big Finish has picked up that torch a bit, so I can't complain too much, is the lore of the conflict between the Time Lords and the vampires. It has a nice start in this story, but it never really gets revisited on TV, at least not that I know of. Maybe we'll get some of it in New Who with the search for Gallifrey. Then again, Twilight has kind of ruined vampires for the general populace, so the Doctor Who production team might not ever want to go there again. Oh yeah, Adric's in this one, but he gets captured and almost turned into a vampire. That sentence is a lot funnier than it probably ought to be. But I have to say that I can take his character a bit more seriously with the change in costume. Just a bit, though. Anyway, State of Decay has some good concepts and ideas that they probably had intentions of expanding, but never really did, and that's a shame, because there's some really great stuff here. I guess that's what fanfic is for, right? Take care, guys. Chrissy.
Very good.
Thank you, Chrissy.
All right, well, that's it for feedback. Let's move on to our reviews.
State of Decay first?
Let's do Wrath, because... I was doing it in chronological order. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The story would have happened before Romana.
Norfolk, c. 60 AD. The Roman occupation of Britain. The Doctor and Leela are at odds with each other after meeting the warrior queen of the Iceni tribe, Boudica.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's not a very good description, though.
No, not really.
It's not an exciting description.
It doesn't explain anything about what's going on.
It's apt, yes. They are at odds when they meet Boudica.
Well, that description almost feels like one of the generic TARDIS lands on planet X, Doctor and Companion Y meet character Z. That's really all you needed to do is fill the blanks out.
We've never actually reviewed the synopses of the story.
That's true.
Well, we've always mentioned how if it's a good synopsis
absolutely. But I mean, we've never felt that the need to review them.
I agree. This was a very enjoyable story. It's a great Leela story. I think, more than anything else. It really gives Leela a chance to shine and kind of grow as a character and learn. And while the Doctor has some great moments, it's mostly him trying not to be there and having to, which is always kind of entertaining, I think.
Yeah, it really is.
Especially when it's Tom and all those great lines of trying to get out of finding ways to leave and whatnot.
There's a lot of stuff that worked in this, and I'll be honest, I was a little. It's a historical. Didn't even think about the fact that it's Tom's historical. It's a historical. Okay, here we go. And I too was very, very, very much reminded of Pompeii. There was a lot of.
Well, I think it helps that
Pompeii influence, I think.
Fires of Vulcan was probably the most recent pure historical audio we've listened to. So that probably helps us a little bit.
But just the idea that, even at this stage in the game, the Doctor's having those mental exercises with himself of, surely I could say one. Surely one would be all right. One wouldn't damage the timeline. And comes down on the side of, okay, let's do it.
Yeah. Which 10 didn't.
It
took Donna to convince him. So.
Although there's a really, this is completely off topic. No, kind of off topic, but it's a really fun fan theory dealing with why Capaldi, his face keeps showing up in Who. The current prevailing fanfic, if you will, is that the character he plays in Fires of Pompeii actually is the Doctor, and that he lands in Pompeii and loses the TARDIS. But he knows that he's going to be showing up, and so he's set everything up to be rescued by 10.
That's why he buys the TARDIS.
And that's why, and somebody mentioned that, the fact that the TARDIS has this perception field, and that people are supposed to ignore it most of the time. But yet this guy went, art, and brought it into the house. And so 10 comes and rescues him, and they go off, and I thought, you know what, absolutely, I'll buy that.
He's
Why not?
Quite quiet after he gets rescued. He doesn't really say much.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't explain who this family is that he's clobbed onto, but maybe
who knows how long he's been there?
Maybe they're his traveling companions at the time. Maybe he's going to have a full house TARDIS later.
The only problem with that theory is the post scene.
Yeah,
of them in Rome or wherever.
Well, maybe they've got a couple more years to kick around before the TARDIS shows back up. I thought that was a lot of fun. But this story had a lot for me, I think, of Fires of Pompeii, with the kind of the back and forth and dealing with the people of their time. I loved Leela. I've said that before, that I think Louise Jameson does a really good job. And while she definitely sounds older, she still sounds like Leela to me. Of all of the audios that we've listened to with all of the companions, with the possible exception of Turlo, I think Leela's probably the best at still channeling that character. And maybe it's because she's such a different character than, everybody else on the ship. Because it's kind of easy to be savage, but she talks, I hear Leela. I mean, I just do.
I would agree.
And I thought she had a really, really good arc in this, with being so, not headstrong, but stuck to her ideals. It wasn't so much a matter of her, warrior beliefs, but just, this is right, and what you are doing is wrong. As so many companions, as Donna was, very passionate about it. To leave the Doctor, but not leave him in a lurch.
Yeah.
And then on her own come about seeing that he was right, and that, maybe this woman wasn't so
and
nice.
And a great scene.
Yeah. So I really, really, really liked that. And I thought Tom was wonderful. I thought he did. This to me has kind of been the most Tom-like, I think, of the fourth Doctor ones.
I would agree, 100%.
Him playing I Spy, and doing Roof. And then later, then calling back, I Spy R. Roof? Where's a roof? We're outside.
And she says, road.
Roof. What was his reply? It was a test. I thought maybe I tripped you up on that one.
I really like Ragnar.
Yeah.
She was, if it wouldn't
Potential
screw,
companion
if
right
it
there.
wouldn't screw things up, I would have loved to see her join them and then leave off later. Because she would have been a great pairing
she was
with
going
Lisa.
to.
I had a moment of maybe she was an Adam and she trailed on for a couple of stories and then they let her go.
Well, I guess, it's not too outside the realm for them to do that. I mean, they did that with the Fifth Doctor and Perry and what's her face?
Aram.
Aram.
Yeah, that's
Aram.
right.
So
Yeah.
I mean, it could.
I think that's where I maybe got that from.
Yeah.
I halfway expected her. On the flip side of that, I kept painting in my head this picture of you got two similar companions. So that might have been.
But it almost seemed
Because
like
Romana and K9 were not similar at all.
or Adric and all three of them.
Or Hedrick and Nisa. I liked
But
this.
it seemed like Bragnar would help also educate Leela to some extent, because while Bragnar was kind of she was a savage from a savage time, she seemed to be more advanced than anyone else, I thought.
Well,
I mean,
the contrast there too would be Leela's warrior-like persona and Ragnar's peaceful persona, because she didn't want to fight.
She was a chef.
War. Yeah. So, I don't have much more to say than you guys do about this, because you guys have kind of hit it on it all. I agree with you that I think Tom is totally in his element. This is the first story of the three that we've listened to of the Fourth Doctor audios where I really felt like he was just everything that the Fourth Doctor needed to be. I really like the perspective that Leela brings to this. I think that this really does more for Leela than any of her stories has done before, as far as characterizing her and kind of bringing her to the forefront, giving us more of what she's like and how. I mean, she's even learning from this situation, even though she almost turns on the Doctor completely, and goes. And the other thing that I like about this is I always felt in the back of my mind that the Doctor had a plan, and it's almost solidified at the end when he kind of reveals that he didn't quite lie, but he did. He kind of misled her as that this was the battle that she was going to die in, and so she kind of gave the wrong information on this, and so I kind of liked that, and I almost got this impression that the Doctor was kind of letting this play out, even though he was being very stoic and not, I can't tell him being very stubborn, and I almost felt like he was kind of letting this play out for Leela's sake, so that she would gain something from it. And because, knowing that her going and pledging allegiance to Boudica, she would then in turn find out her real nature. And it's something that the Fourth Doctor couldn't just tell her and teach her, that she would have to experience that herself. So I think that worked out really well too. And just kind of in the back, maybe it's because I set the Fourth Doctor on such a pedestal, but in the back of my mind, it felt like that he was almost kind of letting this play out, because he knew it would help her learn as well.
And it's not until I didn't think of this until now. It makes sense that he kind of lets her do that and isn't more adamant of trying to talk her out of it, knowing that she's not going to her death. Leela will likely survive this.
Right.
And that's, while listening to it, kind of felt off to me that he was so willing to let Leela go join up and go die horribly.
Maybe that's why in the back of my mind I kept saying, she's...
Yeah. And I kind of did buy into the fact of, so this is what's going to happen, and somehow Leela's going to survive this horrific battle, and then she's going to leave with the Doctor. And I was kind of pleasantly surprised that he lied to her. Yeah. That I like that twist to it. I didn't expect it.
I don't know that he lied.
He lied. He
to
just kind of misdirected.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I'm the same way. I thought that the lessons learned, which is one of the things that I thought was really kind of nice, shoehorning these stories in between Talons and whatever the follow up to that one was, really kind of makes sense, and it allows them to really embellish Leela's arc as a character. Yeah. But this one in particular, and the Doctor even comments on it, enough of the museums and this and that, where we're going to go, you're going to go experience history now, and getting that out of it was really kind of a nice way of pushing that to the forefront. And like you say, Glenn, just allowing her to to really, really work on the education. Some of this you got to do on your own. Yeah. And so here it is, So I liked that. Although I will say that Boudica, I have to agree with Chrissy. I'm kind of curious to look up, because I don't know if this is. I mean, for being a pure historical, is this a made-up historical, or
No,
is this
from what I understand,
based on a true story?
It's a real story because I was listening to some of the bonus features, and they gave the story to the writer and said, "Okay, we would like something historical." And he goes off, and they're like, "No big rush." He wakes up in the middle of the night, Leela meets Boudica. That's the story, and just went with it from there. So it's a real person.
I wish I was smart enough to be in on these conversations. I mean just to be able
I
to
don't
go,
know much about that time period.
Well, see, I don't either. But to be able to go, oh yeah, so and so, they got to meet so and so, and to have other people go, oh yeah, what? I'm sorry, guys. I wish I had better co-hosts that would be in on that with me, and I wish I was better and that you were better, so that we could all talk high thoughts of
highbrow.
But instead, we'll talk gutters and.
That's why people like us.
That's why people like us.
We're common folk.
We're peasants with indigestion. But now I will say this: the Queen, when she went to deliver her speech to the troops, I passed right. This was not an inspirational speech. This was not. She's revving everybody up. We're gonna go and kick some butt, and I'm like, yeah, we're gonna go do this, yeah. And every time it got to that point where I thought the speech was ending, it didn't. And it just went on. It felt like it went on and on and on. And I think the problem was that I actually did fall asleep. And then I woke back up, and she was still talking, but it was probably 10 minutes later in the audio, and I thought it was part of the same speech. Because when I went back to listen to it, it really wasn't that long at all.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, it just felt like it went on and on. And I remember thinking to myself, you need we will not go quietly into the night. You got to have that Independence Day presidential boom punchline, get off, because this is just taking too long, lady. If I was in your army, I'd have been bored to death by now, and I would not follow you anywhere.
To me, I thought the actress did a great job that played Boudica, but unfortunately, you'll always put Mel Gibson as William Wallace out for that kind of speech, and she just could not nail that.
She couldn't nail
so
that
I was
at all.
like, I'm sorry, just not quite there. But
They can take our lives, but they will never take our freedom. Ah! Yeah.
Anything else about this one that sticks out that you guys want to talk about?
I don't think so.
It was good. It was
I
enjoyable.
think this is the best one so far.
So far, I would agree.
The, Fourth Doctor audios. So I'm
I look
excited
forward-
they seem to be getting their momentum.
And I
Yeah.
look forward to what's next. Seeing just the title.
What's the next one?
Something of the Daleks.
Oh, well, I'm excited too. Just hearing that.
It's
It doesn't matter. It's up the Daleks.
It's actually it actually is called something of the Daleks.
No, it's not.
Stephen Moffat, if you're taking notes.
Okay, sorry, I have to go off track one more time. Speaking of Stephen Moffat and his brilliance, I have no idea if this is true or not, but when supposedly he told a story that supposedly the scene in the 50th anniversary where she's showing her through the black archives and she's making her comments about this technology can't be allowed to fall into the wrong hands, look what's happened. It was not going to be the Vortex manipulator. It was going to be the two posters of the Peter Cushing and the Dalek movies. And he said, we just couldn't afford, he was making a tongue-and-play joke and working in that these are films that somebody based on the Doctor's life within continuity. But they couldn't afford the rights to the posters, so they had to change it. I have no idea if the story is true or not, but the fact that Stephen Moffat made a joke about trying to continuitize
I saw that he
these things
mentioned wanting to try to get
was
that
just
there.
like, command me, Lord.
That would have been pretty cool.
But he couldn't get Shock a Doctor out of Richard E. Grant
Yeah,
as
no
the Great
kidding.
Intelligence. What are you
I
thinking?
think he tried to go there too.
All right, moving on. Sorry.
The Dr. Romana and K9 are trapped in E-space, a strange alternative universe. Alternative universe.
Alternate universe.
Alternate universe. What's wrong with that? They are unable to find an escape and do not realize that a young boy called Adric has stowed away aboard the TARDIS. Arriving on a primitive planet where the local inhabitants fear the three who rule, they will soon find themselves facing a hideous creature from Time Lord legend that was long thought dead. Soon the Doctor must confront a blood-sucking a blood-sucking monster that is very much alive. I butchered that ending. Sorry. Very much alive.
Dun, dun, dun. Now go ahead, Glenn. Give it the horn.
I wouldn't give it the horn.
Last week you were all about the horn.
No,
You made it sound like you hated the story.
You made it
last
sound
week.
like this was Spawn of
And
Adric.
obviously, rewatching it, it was better for him.
Maybe.
No, it wasn't any better. No, I think I played it up last week for the drama of it. But no,
Lead us off, Keith. Tell us what you thought.
I
it's a
really
Fourth
enjoyed
Doctor
this one.
story. I don't hate any of them.
This is way better than Full Circle.
It wasn't Twin
See,
Dilemma for you?
I don't agree. I think it's not better than Full Circle.
What?
No. Here, let me start.
You start,
Let me
because
start.
I
You guys
look at
can
this.
talk it up and try to change my mind. But conceptually, it's a good idea. I like the idea of ancient vampires, that they are the reason behind the lore.
I'm always a fan of those sort of stories, trying to take a new twist on the vampire, where there's this bigger monster, and what the offspring are what we consider Dracula and vampires, that there's a vampire beyond the vampire. I always appreciate those stories,
The
just
head
because
vampire.
they try to do something more than, oh, look, I'm just a vampire, I'm going to suck your blood. They try to put some thought into the mythology more. So I always appreciate that when it comes to a vampire story. Sorry, continue.
That's right. So I also like the fact that there was this great bloody vampire war between the Time Lords and the vampires, essentially, and that they went out to basically became vampire hunters to root out the vampires throughout the universe in order to. And I like the idea that this one particular one fled and slipped into this alternate universe. I love that idea. I even sort of like the concept of having this, crew, this space crew that's been essentially captured and mutated into vampire or vampire-esque servants, basically as a way to harvest the peasants in order to feed him and rise him back to power. That's all a great concept. And that's a great idea. I like the fact that the Fourth Doctor and Romana being Time Lords and ultimately the same race or species that wiped the vampires out in the first place are also the ones that get to wipe this one out. So all of that's great and fine. The problem with this story is it is 4 episodes and nothing happens.
See, I thought it moved along quickly.
Nothing happens. It's spectacle. It's
Great
very
atmosphere.
it's wonderful set design. It's great costumes. It goes nowhere. And the other thing that's always bothered me about this, and there's a reason for this, is that Adric is completely out of character in this one. To me, he is completely out of character. He's
a little
very
better character.
Well, that's just it. If he had been this
If he had
character,
stayed this character
if
the
he had
entire
stayed this
time.
character the entire time, it would have worked. But he's smarmy. He's smart mouth. But the problem is this is the one that was shot before Full Circle, even though Full Circle takes place, and this still had the idea of him being the Artful Dodger type character. So he comes across kind of that way in this story. So I don't like Adric's portrayal in this one as well. Very little use of K9, which surprised I'm saying that, but I mean, there's not a lot going on there, and he's relegated to the TARDIS in order to, which it works well that he figures out. The other thing that I
what
think
I was surprised with was how much K9 we got, considering they relegated him to the TARDIS.
well, it's,
There,
and it-
there are other
it certainly
stories
works.
where
Did you watch the fourth part?
Well,
K9 leads
and then,
the charge.
well, and then him in that throne.
That's true.
That's where K9 belongs.
The fourth story does read right. That's the other thing, though, is we have this culmination up to the fourth story, which ends up being the best part of this, the big finale. I even like launching the rocket ship and bringing it back down to. That's great. The problem is the first 3 stories are just drawn out and slow, and they're trying to build this mystery, and I don't enjoy those. They're kind of there. They're boring. I've never enjoyed those that much.
I could see coming to it knowing this is a vampire story, seeing that mystery of what are they unfolding being very boring. I tried to watch it, and despite my comments and jokes, trying to keep out of the mind of these are not vampires. I don't know what's going on here, and I found it very enjoyable, and I thought the mystery was great and unfolded very well.
Well, and I like the idea that they're trying to sell you on the idea that they're vampires because that's kind of the misdirection.
And they
but-
hint it, and then yeah.
I think the guy that the actual scientist that's hiding with the rebels in the little bunker with the
With his
technology.
really bad comb over.
Well, it's with spaghetti hair.
Braided.
In his face, he looks like the Rankin and Bass version of Santa Claus in Rudolph and the Red-Nosed Reindeer. If you look at him really close, he looks like that Santa. That, the bald.
I kept trying to figure out where I knew him from. 'Cause I looked at this guy and went,
He
"You're
looks like
familiar
he looks
from
like a
somewhere."
cartoon character.
He looked like a cartoon character. He's
That,
got
that certainly doesn't take away from the story, at all.
nose.
But I just it's that little button nose, and he's got the perfectly rounded head and the beard that comes down around like this. Now Santa's was a little longer, but this guy growed it out. He'd be a spitting image, and maybe take the spaghetti hair away.
he grew it out so he could tie it up over his head.
No, I don't hate this story. I like the ideas and the concepts. It just takes too long to come to fruition of it.
All right, Keith. Wow, I'm
See, I thought it trucked through the story. There really wasn't a part in this where I was bored while watching it. Well, maybe some parts where Adric was in the village, and
I always
I
find
don't
myself
know you.
struggling to keep focus
see, I
on
didn't.
this story because it's not going anywhere.
It's the
not doing
vampire
anything.
allure.
No,
They're glamoring you.
I think they would hypnotize me into watching the story if they
Well,
could.
you just okay. I like the vampire ideas in it, and the fact that they came from another planet and crashed here. I never quite. So the rebellion was also from the plane, like descendants of the plane crash. They were trying to get back to Earth too. Is that right?
It was one big ship. That was
Yes.
It was an exploratory ship from Earth to
And
somewhere
and
else.
so the scientists got bitten by the vampire, became
and the great
lackeys
vampire
and-
latched onto the ship, and they got thrown into East Space, or maybe the great vampire brought them into East Space. You could kind of go either way, because it's presumed initially that it was an accident. They got there by accident. But then later it's like, oh, maybe the great vampire actually, because he was fleeing for his life from the Time
that's
Lords.
true. And the doctor
Cause
did
of the
say,
CEV or
well, the
whatever.
knowledge of how to get out if you
I get
die
the
with the
impression
vampire.
that he slipped out and had to come back to power. He knew how to slip back into the universe, and so in part of that plan was bringing them out into East Space.
Right.
So that
But yeah,
he could use
he converted the three who rule into his kind of personal slaves to kind of take care of things, and everybody else is the descendants of the original crew.
Right.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
I thought I remembered that correctly. I think that's, while a bit reused, I mean, it's kind of similar story
I
of
don't have a
last
problem
week.
with that.
and, I
It's a
mean,
much better telling
it's a
of
better,
the story last
it's a better
week.
version of the one last week. So, and the rebellion was kind of a minimal part to the story, I thought. So I was okay with it being there. And okay, we need to leave the planet to somebody, so might as well have them there. The Doctor and Romana are wonderful in this whole thing. Especially Romana is fantastic.
Romana's great in this. Does just to jump in here real quick, does the selection thing remind you of anything, though?
Eighth Doctor comic.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even think of that until this time I watched it. I went, oh, man, that's really similar to that crappy piece of crap.
That crappy piece of crap stole it from this, trying to make good comic book.
Yeah, probably.
So I think it was while later thinking about it, it makes more sense. But I felt like they didn't quite explain the wasting as well as they could have. Of so the wasting was just them taking people to feed to the vampire, right?
The wasting.
I mean, that's all they kind of gave us, and they kind of hinted at it, and they were looking for these chosen ones, which Adric was going to be one, but they don't really spell out what they were going to do. I guess is what I kind of got that. I didn't walk away going, oh, that was their plan. I was just kind of like, oh, they got defeated, so it doesn't really matter.
I don't think there was any great mystery to the wasting. I think it was a scary word, and they threw it around and went, oh, the wasting, and we knew that it was going to be bad, and the Doctor was going to stop it from happening. That was pretty much all we needed.
I almost kind of wish Adric had been turned into a vampire and left there. I mean,
kind of.
It would have been a great ending to the character. I mean, granted, it's not crashing into a planet, but as willing as he was and willing to sacrifice Romana, if that means he gets to bite her, it just seemed like he was. I don't know. Why did they save him? I just don't see the motivation for the Doctor to save Adric in this story.
The best,
or Romana to save him, because he's going to throw her under the bus.
Well, Romana is being very Romana. She's being very, we have to go save everybody, in this. So that part was cool. But the reaction when she says we have to save Adric, and the Doctor's like, who? Adric, he was taking with and his actual Adric, like
the disgust in his voice.
He was pissed.
Well, first of all, he barely knew Adric from the first story.
I know.
And
Yeah.
number two, the kid just stowed away on his TARDIS, so he's already got 2 strikes against him.
The anger and
You didn't impress me enough the first time, and you've stowed away on my.
No, I'm going to be stuck
It's no
with
wonder
you.
he gives him such a hard time the rest of the time with him.
I really enjoyed it. I did watch some of the bonus features after I took it home. Ironically enough, Chrissy mentions Twilight. There's a kind of a nice bonus feature talking about vampires and literary fiction. Did you watch that?
I did. I haven't seen it recently. But
Ironically,
back when I first bought it.
It was produced in 2009. Not a single mention of Twilight. The first couple of movies had been out by that point.
Yeah.
There's a Buffy mention, no Twilight. I think it's kind of a...
They're not vampires. Why would they mention that?
Actually, the first movie wasn't. I don't think the first movie was released until 2010.
I looked it up while watching it. I thought it was 2007.
The first movie?
I thought so. Maybe I was looking up the book.
No, because the last movie came out last year, and that was the 4th one, and they've been running them one a year. So,
Maybe I was thinking of
They
the
split
book.
the last book into...
oh, that was the 5th one. Yeah, you're right. So maybe it has been.
2008.
Was the first one that came
Movie.
out? Okay. Well, now that he reminded me that there are 5, I forgot that was.
So that was a very kind of interesting bonus feature of them talking about the different history and kind of tracing back further than Dracula and even the novel Dracula, which I didn't really know much of that, and I'm a decent vampire fan, so that was interesting. They also, making of was pretty interesting. The writer intended it to be a 4th Doctor Leela story. And the BBC was making some big budget adaptation of Dracula, and they told
they
them
changed
nobody
the
can
name.
do Doctor Who can't do Dracula, or anybody can't do Dracula in fear of, or vampires in fear that they're making fun of this. So they had to push it off.
Interesting.
And so the atmosphere and mood kind of makes more sense for a 3rd Doctor or a 4th Doctor in Leela.
It feels like
It's-
it would still fit into that gothic
and the horror
the-
aspects
The
to
script
it.
Horror
is
Fang Rock
3
era.
years old by this time, and it actually was originally called The Vampire Mutation.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Now, okay, Glenn, you
So
are...
I don't know if it would have worked as well with Leela as it does with Romana.
I don't think it would have been as clever and witty.
It might not have had the
but I think it
Gallifrey
would have.
tie-in either. I don't know if the original script
Oh,
did.
I think it would have, but I think the Doctor would have figured out that that's the other thing I thought was kind of interesting, that for some reason they store vampire information on the Type 40s, but that's neither here nor there.
I
It
got
was
the
good
impression
that it happened that way.
Rassilon hid it somewhere or something. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but it got the impression that it wasn't just his Type 40. That it
No,
was,
I kind of implied
it
it
was
was
on
all
several
of
Type
them,
40s. Go ahead. What were you going to ask?
You are or are not a vampire fan? Like of the genre?
Here or there.
Here or there.
Here or there.
See, I'm trying to figure out if maybe that's why you're meh on it, and you being
I'm
a
more
vampire,
of a vampire fan,
enjoyed it
yeah.
more. But
I think
I'm
that could
not
be.
really a big vampire fan. I
It
could kind of
depends
take
on
him
the
or leave.
vampire
Yeah,
you
I mean,
like,
really,
too.
it kind
I
of
mean-
depends on. I could take or leave him, but I like the story. I said last week that I hadn't seen it since forever, but I remember liking it, and I remember being actually a little scared as a kid. I remember watching it, and kind of the atmosphere got to me. That it was one of those creepy ones.
I know you say that. I got something.
Go ahead.
That's something I remember when I was a kid and watching this. I didn't hate this story then either, but I remember watching this and being upset that they weren't actually vampires too.
Oh.
And I don't know why that was. Well, I was I was into horror films back then, so maybe that's why. But I was just I remember distinctly now not being actually frustrated with the fact that that all along I thought they were vampires and they weren't. And then they weren't.
They were more like
they were mutations. They were
were-
vampiric, but they weren't vampires.
They were like halflings.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
they were vampires.
No. The vampires were the guy that was hidden. That's the vampire.
Well,
that's the vampire, and it's the humanoid vampire. There's some.
It was a vampire mutation, just like the title implied.
Okay, but the great vampire, the one that's buried under the planet, is kind of the.
What was the?
You will never ever see this bad guy in any. He's the head vampire. He's the big bad. The three who rule were your kind of standard vampires.
They weren't vampires though. They make that. Later, they make that clear, and I can't remember exactly how it was stated. But no, they're not. They're not vampires. In fact,
I've never heard them.
They remind me more of the what were the sirens in Bram Stoker's story? The ones that
the wives.
Yeah, that they essentially got kind of the leftovers or the throwaways and. They were kind of.
They were almost.
They're not
higher functioning
either.
Redfields.
Yeah, like that. That's a good analogy. I mean, that's not like official, but
I got the impression while watching it too that because they rapidly deteriorated and they did drink blood to sustain themselves, they were kind of like vampire genetics in human form.
They were
but
vampires.
Not a true vampire.
They were bitten vampires. It's like when they were turned. However you want to describe this.
Yeah, they weren't the
turned. Original vampire.
So,
that was the thing of the thing. But once he bites you and you become a vampire, that's what these people were.
It really is splitting hairs.
Yeah, I mean they were vampires.
Yeah. I mean they were by any stretch 90% all vampirism comes from someplace, and it's all bite infections. They like the idea from some is that like God created or Satan created vampires and then they infected humans to carry on their bloodline, and that's kind of the same idea.
Well, yeah, I agree. I think you're mincing points. The three who rule are vampires. I don't.
Vampiric. They're not vampires.
They're vampires. They're not the great vampire.
They're not the big bad.
They're not the big bad. That I get. They're not pure vampires.
But it's no different than if Dracula,
like the Lost Boys.
If Dracula bit you and turned you,
you've got
you
the
would
Lost
be a
Boys,
rule.
and then you've got the vampire.
That's a good example.
Sure, if you want to look at it that way, they're still vampires.
But the Lost Boys were still vampires in the same extent.
I agree. We're splitting hairs. It's neither here nor there. So. But it always upset me that they weren't really vampires. When I was a kid and I didn't adopt that same theory that you're going with, it always bothered me that they weren't the vampire, that there was this giant vampire, which I always thought was kind of cool, but then it was like, I wanted them to be... And that's the other thing is, coming from a kid perspective again, and I don't think so now watching it, and that's why I don't come down as hard. They weren't very vampire-like. They had the little hypnosis thing, but they weren't... I mean, especially when the one guy died, he casts the one guy down the guard, and she runs over to get ready to drink his blood, and she says, it's dead, so the blood is stale, and I thought...
That was a little quick.
Dumb. Yeah, I mean, it's like...
It's not the only vampire story to do it, though.
Yeah, well, I just that was always... That always bothered me.
That's just not part of the vampire mythos you prefer. You prefer it that they can drink any blood.
That's certainly true, too.
And that's the thing with vampires.
But that bothered me back then. It doesn't bother me now.
That's the thing with vampires, is there's so much mythology that you can cherry pick what you want to use.
That's what I think is probably the best bits of this story.
You're making an argument for Twilight now, so be careful.
I'm not saying they were vampires. I'm not saying Twilight's vampires.
Now wait a minute, they are vampires, and you're making an argument for why they can be vampires.
That there's a lot of vampire mythology, and you can choose to recognize what you want.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
And Twilight, I choose not to recognize.
But in that statement,
and I can choose not to like it.
Well, you're right. You still don't like it. You're still not saying you like it, but you are qualifying it for others to accept it.
It exists, unfortunately.
In my humble opinion, if we're going to go down this road, Twilight discards too much of the vampire lore for them to still be considered true vampires. I agree with Keith.
Because there are some unalienable truths about vampires. And one of the biggest things that one throws out is the aversion to sunlight. That is pretty much universal across the board.
And even Doctor Who did this with the fact
Twilight
that there are
even
no
has
windows
has
in
an
their
aversion
castle.
to Twilight, but they explain why
they
in
explain
a different
it, but
way. It's
it's
not the allergic to it. It's the I don't want to sparkle.
But even Doctor Who did that with there are no windows in the castle or
Right.
ship
Yeah.
in this case. I think first of all, I didn't know until this time out that this was a Terrence Dicks story. So that immediately kind of elevates it a little bit because I love Terrence Dicks. I love the way, and he's going to be at Galley, and I'm all kinds of excited. I don't know if you heard that new guest announcement. Terrence Dicks is going to be there.
I didn't see that.
But so that's that in and of itself is cool. It does all of the stuff right. Vampires have their whole genre. They've got a subculture. There's just the family tree for vampirism is nuts. It's pretty much untrackable. Doing a vampire story in science fiction borders on insane because there's so much of it that doesn't work. There's so much of it that you really have to, okay, how much of this are we going to explain? Does it become midichlorians and it's a magic word and we just throw it out there? Or do we actually deal with the science of it?
That's what this does well, though, is it goes bold and
Exactly,
says this
yes.
is the foundation for all of the myths.
For all of
Which
the myths.
I always like when stories try to do that too.
And so not only is
You
this
should go all the way back to the beginning and you've
Yeah.
covered yourself. Basically.
well, and that's what he did, is that the vampires were these great creatures that roamed the galaxy and sucked entire planets dry to the point where the Time Lords had to intervene. And we go, all right, let's go. And I'm sorry, any story that can generate this kind of concept, a gigantic ship that fires a bolt of steel. The entire purpose of this ship is to do nothing but catapult a bolt of steel. Yes, I am in favor of whatever you have crafted for this story, because that's cool. So the Time Lords get involved, and they chase them throughout the universe and exterminate the Time Lords. The principles of don't interfere, don't do this, don't commit genocide, blah, 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 are hunting these guys down?
but they do. He does make a reference in the early days. This was before
that's
they were
true.
really kind
Right.
of the peace-loving.
And that Rassilon
No
was...
introduction.
That's,
Yeah,
and
and
they kind
wrestling
of get
was
the impression
integral
that that's
too.
why they become peace loving. It's because of this war they had to
Right.
fight with
Exactly.
the great vampires.
I think that's another reason why this story works so much better for me, because it really does
I
present some
love the
integral Time Lord
mythology
mythology
it adds
to it.
to the Time Lords.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah. So now we've got the planet and the atmosphere and all of the standard things you would expect to find in Vampire. We've got mist, we've got dark falling, we've got bats, we've got a castle, we've got a culling, we've got the wasting, whatever that is. Where the
Did you say we have a colon?
culling, where they...
Culling.
Culling.
Oh, I thought he was trying to drag Twilight into this again.
No, I would never drag Twilight. The only place I would drag Twilight is into Adric's room, where it could reside together with him on the You're Not Allowed to Be Here show. But it does all that stuff right, in my mind. It really kind of hits the... And maybe this is the kid talking, that it cherry picks the tropes of what you would expect in a vampire story, but then it gave them to me. And it's like, yeah, okay, cool. I'll buy that for $1. The ship... Elegant,
I like
simple,
that.
fantastic. Yes. I like the fact that we get a very almost Frankenstein-esque, that we've rallied the villagers and we're going to go storm the castle. But instead of pitchforks and torches, we have canine. This canine would have
Bowen
made
never
short
went
work
down.
of the Sisters of the Flame if they'd had him on Morbius. Now, it would have been a little harder for him to get around up and down them stairs. But
All the rocks.
he'd have... That story had been over in like 2 parts. I agree with Keith. I don't think there's a moment where this story flags, except the Adric scenes. And I hate to harp on
And it's
this
not-
because he
it's-
is so much better than last week.
And it's not, and it
until he agrees to
only
sacrifice.
drags until he meets back up with Romana.
Well, it's that
It's when he's separated from the rest, and they have to have his own story of what he's doing to
that
get
whole
him to
what
the
do we-
end point.
Yeah, because we need him here. What is he doing up until that point? We have to explain that. Those are the parts that drag. The part with him and Canine is great to a point.
He doesn't trick Canine. Canine just doesn't care enough. Oh, I scanned you. You're inconsequential. Go die.
Now, if I'm not going to upset you with this, so I'm warning you in advance. This could be a little visually disturbing. But I thought of that today. I can't remember exactly. Was it inconsequential human or young human or whatever he said to him?
Adolescent human.
Adolescent human. if Ace had been around and K-Knight had said that, she'd have banged him with the bat. His head would have flown across the TARDIS console room. That would have been the end of that. Doctor would have come home, and Ace had been there. Your dog's outside. Just,
I don't think that's
who you calling small? Whack.
I think Ace would have loved K9.
I think so too. They would have got along real well.
She would have come back at him for saying that, but I don't think she would have.
She would have, yeah. She would have had a witty comeback.
One of the good things that comes out of this story is the fact that Terrence Dicks continued the story a bit beyond the end of this in the eight Doctors. This is where 8 meets the Fourth Doctor and Romana, and I believe it's en route back because it's not disclosed. Actually there's a scene in between the group of the rebels and back to when the Doctor is with the rebels and then goes back to rescue Romana. So there's an interaction.
There's a little bit there.
Yeah. So that was
cool.
pretty neat. So
The Doctor Romana interplay is, I don't know, maybe it's because Terrence Dicks just knows how to write for these two. Maybe it's because...
Well, this is his first time writing for him, isn't it?
Is it?
Because previously it was Brandon Morbius. Oh, I'm sorry. Previously it was Horror Fang
Rock.
And then Brandon Morbius. I think this was his first Romana
It
outing.
might have been.
Yeah, I think so.
He's just that good.
He is.
He takes the best. Well, like when we did, what was the one, Nightmare of Eden, with the little back and forth with the Sonic that they had, and then he's kind of like distilled. It's like he watched all these episodes leading up to writing this one. And
No,
okay,
Naimon, Horns of the Naimon.
Hordes of Naimon.
Yeah.
And just gave us, boom, here's the best of it. I mean, Romana's not. She's kind of overcome that resignation of I'm having to go home. And the resignation of we're stuck in E-space. There's still a little bit of
She's
that.
kind of more embracing the fact that they're stuck in E-space.
Yeah. This is now...
Kind of taking advantage of the fact of, we don't have to go home
Exactly.
yet.
We're still here.
Which
So.
I thought she should have done last week.
Exactly. So that he's fixed that. They have all these great things when they're tied up and they're in the thing, and she's the witty stories about the hermit on the hill, and she's interacting with the Doctor, and when he's trying to lead her down the scary path about the tales of the vampires, and she's being exactly what she knows he wants.
Mm-hmm.
She's being the captive ear and holding on to him. Do say it. And you get the idea that it's almost because there's a little bit of genuine fear in her voice because she's still the young time lady that doesn't know anything. But at the same time, it almost comes across more like she's playing with him,
Patronizing.
she's patronizing him and allowing him to be
kind
the
of like
genius.
that too
And
because
I
she's really
love
the only
that.
companion that can get away with that.
I know. Maybe Sarah Jane, but other than that,
Yeah, but even to a point, Sarah
would bite.
Yeah.
She would eventually get into the story and get.
But
hooked to it.
I love that, and Romana 2 is the only one that you get that with, and then, so there's so many of those little things.
This story really makes me want to go back and rewatch.
I don't know.
Romana 2.
Romana 1 often seemed to be humoring the Doctor as well,
I think in a different way though.
especially in Stones of Blood. But yes,
Well, when she wasn't being thrown off a cliff by him.
well,
I don't know. There's just I went into it and I very much tried to look for the things that you were going to complain about, and I couldn't find them. I sat back and I agree with you, Keith. I think this story moves, except for the Adric parts. It doesn't flag. It's entertaining. It's got great moments of atmosphere. It's got great moments of humor. It's got great moments of just all around. This is a solid story. I'm sorry, I can't find anything to
I think
complain about
that
here.
I'm not the kind of guy that needs a lot of action in a story, but I think this one needed some action early in the story. I think it needed something to kind of peak it a little bit more, especially the cliffhangers. I just thought they were lackluster.
They were. I would agree. The cliffhangers were a little lackluster.
Oh my gosh, lots of beds in the sky. Oh my gosh, this guy just showed up and found us. I never was scared of the.
And he wasn't. He didn't even
Never
give
felt
an
like
ominous.
and then they just
Creepy
that's just
guy.
it. The three
just
that
showed
rule
up.
never had this like you were
Well,
ever in any real danger.
It's almost like if they would have let him finding them go for 5 more minutes, there would have been a better cliffhanger than where they left it.
That's true. Yeah.
It's like they just chose. Prime time. Bam.
Yeah. 24 minutes. We're done.
Yeah, because
And Terrence Dicks is usually pretty good at writing cliffhangers.
I think that goes back to setting the atmosphere, that it was more tonal than...
Maybe that's the problem.
than
That I needed to be wowed by the tonal a little more than I was. And I just wasn't. I never was. And this is the third my third outing on this. Actually, this is my fourth because I watched it
Is
as
this
a kid.
one on Hulu
I watched
Plus?
it when I first bought it.
Uh-huh.
No. And then I watched it again, I think, right around the time that I listened to that Sixth Doctor story where they talked about the... I mean, I've watched all of it, but it references the vampires, and I went back because I couldn't remember some of what was addressed in that project. Yeah, Project Twilight. Because I couldn't remember what was addressed in that. And then,
That has a whole new connotation nowadays, doesn't it?
and then watching it now, of course. So.
But
Anyway.
yeah, it's far improved from last week's. Now, I will admit that I had forgotten that Adric was attempting to pull an Altford Archer and pull a fast one when he was like, "Yeah, I'll join you. We're going to feed on her. You said I was chosen one, right? Look at my badge. It's all shiny. I'm mathematical excellence. I'm better than everybody here.
I don't think he was trying to trick them.
For my initial gut reaction was like, "Oh, I hate you. Why are you still..." Oh, wait, I remember. You're going to try and pull something now and get her out of it. Okay, I'll let this play out for a little bit.
Let me put it this way, is you can think that, but for the Doctor to go on and continue to trust him, you have to almost accept the fact that he was playing them.
It took 3 episodes for him, the Doctor, to trust Turlo.
Now, we like Turlo, but Turlo would also be a fine candidate for the how not to make a good first impression contest.
Turlo was being put up to it by someone else and was
that's
getting
what
help
makes
in
Adric worse.
dupling the Doctor. Well, that's what I'm saying, though. But because of the way that we know how Adric's story turns out,
Yes.
he never had to redeem himself for the Doctor.
Well, he never
just
tried
had
to beat him
prove
with a rock
himself.
either.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. And so based on where the Adric character goes, we almost have to accept, and we may not like it, but we almost have to accept the fact that he was playing the three that rule in order to...
Well, attempting
to.
to. Once again, the word attempting comes up with Adric because he's attempting to rescue Romana, but it doesn't really work out. And I love the fact that Romana's snark comes back to bite him. Well, I was just saying that. And how'd that work out for you? Just get it to him. Because I really don't like Adric. I'm sorry. But, yeah.
I used to see people tear him down on the internet all the time. And I always thought, I've never had that much of a problem with Adric. And I still don't. And then I kept thinking, as we went into these and started talking to him, you guys would be kind of, he gets a bad rap sometimes, but it actually pains me to hear people tear him down so much. And not because I love him and I think he's a great companion, because I don't. I think he's kind of subpar, but to hear people tear him down all the time. I think he was a victim of a lot.
Believe it or not,
the character was a victim of a lot.
Well,
I agree with
that. Yes,
I agree with you. This is going to sound really weird.
I don't even think he was that bad. I don't even think he was that bad in these last 2 stories. So
I think he was way worse in the last one than this one. And I don't want to tear down Matthew Waterhouse because he does a good job with what he's given.
Right.
That's just it. You can only do as good as what the writer is presented for you. And I think the character is fundamentally flawed.
Problem
is that there's just not a lot to work with, and
not that bad.
I don't want anybody to think that my opinion of Matthew Waterhouse is bleeding through into my
I don't think
opinion
that's it either.
And some people online do
some
go
people
that
do.
far.
Well, but I think they do go that far. But my other problem is I'm not getting mad at you guys for turning it down, but because I always thought maybe there was just it was kind of passé to. Or it was just the thing to do.
It's in vogue to tear down.
In vogue, that's what I was looking for. But now that you guys do, it almost makes me wonder if just maybe I have maybe I'm a little more forgiving. And maybe I'm being blinded to how bad this character really was. But I've never hated this character, and even these first 2 stories with him, never have felt like the road to bad Adric. You know what I mean? The road to a terrible companion. So
I think I've always tried to approach Adric without the fan criticism in the back of my head, and I've probably been harder on him last week and this week than I have previously. I think. While I've never had that great of things to say about him, I've never praised him. But I've never been very.
Think the character improves from here, and so I think that's probably.
I've always kind of been very. Whenever anything in Doctor Who is torn down mercifully or mercilessly,
mercilessly, yeah.
I've always tried to come at it and look at well, they can't be right. And sometimes they are. Sometimes they're not, like Ghostlight.
Yeah.
You're talking, for those of you listening,
Unfortunately,
this is the podcast that upholds the Merca, the Candyman.
Exactly. I love the Candyman, and it's.
I love the Candyman too.
Stay with us on this journey. We're going to wind up exonerating Adric before this is all over.
And I've always tried to be a supporter of Adric, and these two stories have not been good for his case.
I think that's it in a nutshell. As much as I spit venom all over him last week, I agree with you. I've never thought it was fair because I very much think it was in vogue. I think it was people wanting to pick on Adric for the sake of picking on Adric, that there wasn't really a lot of basis to it. And I think he does get better as the stories progress. I don't mind him when we get into the Fifth Doctor stories, but he is right now. There's not a lot.
I think he does pair better with.
Well, yeah,
5.
he pairs better with 5, but there's not a lot of. These two parts don't fit together. I don't know what John Nathan Turner, unless he knew in advance that he was going to go in this direction. But for a fan watching these at this time as they were coming out,
I would be questioning why he was still around.
Yeah, it's same thing. I don't see it now. Once Peter Davison shows up, they still bicker, but they fit a little bit better. So maybe that's where we have to be fair to that relationship.
To be fair with the Fourth Doctor and Adric, is there's not a lot of Fourth Doctor and Adric. Well, there's not a lot of them together.
No,
we won't get a lot of that. So that's part of it. And in fact, the stories that they're both in, they're separated most of the time.
And maybe that's why in these two stories I don't feel as accepting of Adric, because the Doctor barely recognizes him and barely acknowledges him.
Right.
And I tend to not like characters until the Doctor likes the character.
That makes sense.
He's still been not accepting of him yet. So
yeah, and
until he is, then we're kind of out in the cold.
All right, what do we got coming up on the schedule, Sean?
All right, well, next week more Adric. Yay! Still expecting,
but not because again, Adric Light. So.
We finish off the E-Space trilogy for Friday Night Who with Warrior's Gate. And this is one I pretty much don't remember anything.
I remember the lion people in the mirror.
I remember
lion people.
I remember the very, very, very end of the story.
They don't look anything like lions, but they have this very mane-like hair. So
okay.
That's why.
I was going to say it's survival.
That's why I'm getting lion people.
I don't remember anything about the story except the mirror and the very, 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 very end of it. That's it. So it'll be new to me.
I don't know much about it other than I know we leave E-Space and some people get left behind.
Well, you're assuming we leave E-Space.
Well, that's true. I'm assuming that we leave E-Space.
And then next week's show...
is well-founded.
I would assume it would have been a quadrilogy otherwise.
Big Finish did a whole season.
Well, that'd be kind of neat, actually.
But we'll finish off the E-Space trilogy on Friday Night Who next week, and then our show will be discussing Warrior's Gate and the E-Space trilogy as a whole, NC trilogy, whatever you want to think of it as. The following week, Friday Night Who, we return to the new series with Christopher Eccleston in Aliens in London and World War III, because I know you just haven't had enough of your Slitheen fix, and it'll help wash the taste of Adric out of your mouth. And then we're going to do some Big Finish stuff. Paul McGann returns to the show. Yay! Not personally, I wish. In number 75, Scaredy Cat, and number 77, Other Lives, both Big Finish mainline adventures. So you should probably start listening to those.
Guess what? I've heard them.
Except for Glenn, who's got his homework done in advance. And then some fun things planned for February.
I got excited after Night of the Doctor. I said, I'm moving on. And I started listening to more Paul.
So that's that. And we'll try and have a schedule update for you probably this week.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week. Until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you.
Been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.